Hello everyone, I'm Brazen Eagle, and thank you for joining me here. So today, we have 3 articles from Fox News about, of course, illegal immigration and the failure to enforce the border. So, the first and second articles detail who is coming into the border, into the country, while the third article exemplifies how easily it is to enter the United States. So from Fox News, the share of Asian Central American illegal immigrants grows as Mexicans drop from the majority. So, Mexicans no longer make up the majority of unauthorized immigrants thanks to an increase in immigrants from Asia and Central America, according to a new study. According to a Pew Research Center study on Wednesday, 4.9 million of the reported 10.5 million unauthorized or illegal immigrants were Mexican in 2017. Meanwhile, the number of unauthorized immigrants from Asia increased by 130,000, and those from Central America rose by 400,000 from 2007. Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, North and South Dakota saw the most substantial increases in immigrants during the 2007 to 2010 period studied. California, Arizona, New York, Illinois, and Florida each saw decreases or declines of more than 100,000 migrants. California saw the largest decline with 7,500,000 fewer unauthorized immigrants in 2017 compared to 2007. The majority of unauthorized immigrants, according to Pew, since 2010 came from the visa overstays rather than illegal border crossings. While it's unclear how much of the increase came from border crossings, the numbers came as the U.S. faced a full-blown emergency at the southern border, and record numbers of border apprehensions, generally considered an indicator of illegal crossings. Those rising numbers came in part from migrant caravans traveling from Central America, but in 2017, the year ending Pew's analysis, the U.S. saw a steep decline in border apprehensions. That decline was most apparent during the beginning of President Trump's administration, which touted the president's tough immigration stances for discouraging illegal border crossings. By May 2019, though, the number of border apprehensions reached the highest level in a decade. According to one analysis, border apprehensions could reach a 13-year high of 913,000 for 2019. Wow. Congress and the White House have struggled to reach a compromise on immigration reform, but Trump has vowed to build a southern border wall despite lawmakers' objections. Trump in June threatened tariffs on Mexico and was able to extract a commitment, but no results, from the nation to beef up its efforts at controlling immigration at the southern border. The administration, meanwhile, faced criticism over an allegedly discriminatory census provision that would ask respondents about their citizenship status. Democrats have complained that the question would help Republicans' electoral prospects, while misrepresenting population figures used to determine federal funding. That battle will likely be decided in the Supreme Court, which took up the issue after several lower courts blocked the Trump administration from adding the question, which doesn't make sense. Why would you block that? The estimate for the number of illegal immigrants in the U.S. has been subject to debate. While many use census numbers for their calculations, a joint study by researchers from Yale University and, of course, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, also known as MIT, suggested that the figure, around 11 million, was substantially lower than the actual number of illegal immigrants. Researchers arrived at a 22.1 million figure, roughly double the number cited by others, by discarding population surveys like the census and looking instead at things like visa overstays and border apprehensions. Well then, thank you Sam Dorman for reporting on this. So, it's interesting to note that while there was a steep decline in border apprehensions when President Trump took office in 2017, but since early 2017, the numbers have soared right back up. It's almost like being weak on border security would have an effect on the number of illegal immigrants entering the country. It's kind of interesting to think about that, don't you think? It's also good information to have that a joint study by, of course, Yale and MIT found that there's at least 22 million illegal aliens within our borders. That's a lot of foreign people that chose to break the law, of course, and we basically do very little about it. It is as if it is okay to enter the country illegally because the host country really won't punish you. The article also brings up the coming census, which I have not heard too much news about. And I like that it talks about how the Democrats complain that adding in a question regarding the person's citizenship status. You know, of course, the crying Democrats are right, though, when they say that questioning the citizenship status of a person is discriminatory. It absolutely is discriminatory, and you know what? We should embrace it. Discrimination, of course, is more than prejudicial. Discrimination means the recognition and understanding of the difference between one thing and another. It's okay to discriminate. We do it every single day. I do it every day. I'm sure you do it every day. The president does it. Everyone in Congress discriminates every single day, so it's okay. Without, of course, discrimination, there is no order. There is no freedom or even equality. Without discrimination, you cannot have equality. It's how you discriminate, of course, that can land you in some hot water. But either way, even though there are fewer Mexicans crossing the border, that just means that there still are Mexicans crossing the border. And they're crossing illegally. With Central Americans as well as some Asians. But let's be real. For the average American, there is no difference between Mexican and Central American. Just be real about it. They, of course, however, seem to be very similar in terms of, racial components, culture, socioeconomic factors. Regardless, at the end of the day, though, Mexicans, Central Americans, and even frickin' Asians are coming illegally to the country. But that's not the only group that comes across the border illegally. This next article details that even Africans, literal Africans, are coming into the country illegally. So again, from Fox News, immigration officials see drastic rise in the number of Africans illegally entering or crossing the U.S.-Mexican border. So, from San Antonio, Texas, Valerie and her son took a walk around the city's downtown area on Monday after spending 3 months on a treacherous trek from Brazil through Central America to Texas. Valerie, a Congolese woman, fled her war-torn country with her family and is now trying to create a new life here. We left the Congo because there weren't any resources for us. My son has really liked it here. I've liked it here as well. It's for this reason I've come to figure out my life, to improve my life, she said in French. Don't you think we have enough people here that already have enough problems? Anyways, Valerie is one of hundreds of African migrants who arrived in San Antonio last week. Man, that was such a beautiful city. City leaders said they weren't given a heads up and quickly scrambled to accommodate them and quickly recruit several French-speaking volunteers who could serve as translators. The city of San Antonio has received more than 200 individuals, mostly families and children. The families were released by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol into the country with paperwork directing them to Portland, Maine, said Interim Assistant City Manager Dr. Colleen Bridger. The majority of them stayed at Travis Park Church, which regularly hosts asylum seekers. I'm not necessarily surprised. We, of course, react to changes on the border every day. We just had to figure out that process. It didn't really shake us up too much, said Gavin Rogers, associate pastor. But it's not just Congolese migrants arriving in alarming numbers. Border Patrol agents reported arresting more than 500 people from Africa since May 30th. That's been like 2 weeks at the time of this recording. 500 people. The group included nationals from Angola, Cameroon, the Republic of the Congo, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Places you don't want to go to. While Border Patrol previously has seen migrants from Africa, this is the first time they have seen such a large group crossing together. It really has been a bit of an anomaly for us, says Del Rio Sector Chief Patrol Agent Raul Ortiz. Most of them, obviously are flying to different locations, and then when they find themselves congregating in a location, when they start to formulate a plan just south of the U.S.-Mexican border here. For years, people from the Congo and neighboring countries have fled to escape political instability and violence. According to the UN Refugee Agency, 4.5 million people from the DRC have been displaced, but the numbers seem to be increasing and officials in border towns are struggling to keep up. It's almost as if decolonialization has resulted in some sort of problem. Some refugees may have been traveling for months to get to the Mexican border in search of better opportunities that the U.S. has to offer, the human rights that the U.S. has to offer. Bonita Sharma, an assistant professor at the University of Texas at San Antonio's College of Public Policy, told the Rivard report. Unlike most Mexican and Central Americans, many of the migrants from Africa don't have roots in America or families who can take them in once they are released from immigration detention. And many speak languages that immigration officials do not. I mean, odds are, for an immigration official, you'll probably speak at least English. I hope you speak at least English, and probably a little bit of Spanish, if not fluent in Spanish. But French or Congolese, come on. Often, or quite often, the individuals from the African continent do not have a permanent address or a sponsor already in the U.S. And so you really just have to pinpoint an immigration court near where they think they are going to ultimately end up and hope that they report themselves in, says Ortiz. Over the weekend, the city, along with Catholic Charities, worked with asylum seekers to figure out their next destination, as many arrived without designated host families and cities. We'll send them back. If we don't know exactly the best place to send the migrant community, like the Congolese, we have to figure out what shelters are available around the nation where the best place for the community to go. Don't send them anywhere, just send them back. Put them on a boat back to the Congo. There is also concern that some of the migrants could carry diseases, as there is currently an Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. However, Bridger quickly shut down those rumors, telling local reporters that the migrants go through multiple health screenings. It's a 21-day incubation period, so it's really not possible that, if they were exposed to Ebola in the DRC, 6 months later, they develop symptoms and infect us, Bridger said. By Monday, the majority of the migrants had left on buses, heading to cities where they may have friends or family members. The line outside the city's Migrant Resource Center downtown had dwindled, but if more come, Rogers said they'll be ready. We're a church always willing to serve our neighbors, Rogers said. We'll continue to do so, whether that's with immigrants or the homeless or a new need that crops up in the future. Wow. Honestly, there's really not much to add to this article, except that if you have a reputation for almost completely open borders, don't be surprised when people across the world will try to enter, either legally or illegally. Even from Africa. They choose to try to illegally enter the United States instead of Europe. And Europe is only separated from Africa by the Mediterranean Sea if you choose to go by boat. Illegal African aliens have to cross over to Latin America through the Atlantic Ocean and then make the journey up through Mexico to attempt to enter illegally. This is just crazy. Just shut down the border and these people won't come. You gotta have strong border security if you don't want illegal immigrants. But, like I said, there's not really much else to talk about this. Just, I guess I could talk about, decolonialization and the destruction it brought upon Africa since then. But anyways, time for our last article. So, footage of porous U.S.-Mexico border purportedly shows armed coyote smuggling dozens with ease. So, footage filmed at a porous section of the U.S. border with Mexico purports to show scores of migrants paying off an armed smuggler known as a coyote to come into the U.S., highlighting not only the ease of entry, but the flourishing business of the smuggling industry. All day, hundreds of people come through this one spot. The smuggler here sometimes takes in big groups, then smaller groups. Brian Colfage, the wounded Air Force veteran who raised more than $20 million to build a privately funded barrier in the controversial We Build the Wall GoFundMe campaign late last year, told Fox News on Wednesday. The smuggler will sometimes run through a group of women and children and knows how many agents are on the ground and knows that the Border Patrol agents will get overwhelmed trying to process the asylum cases. He uses that so then others can be brought through, often running as they don't want to be caught. The clips filmed in Sunland Park just outside of El Paso, Texas, and dated between June 6th and 10th this year, seemingly featured dozens of migrants easily stepping over a concrete barrier and in many cases running onto U.S. soil. The apparent coyote, who at times appears armed with a gun at the waist, visible when his shirt is untucked, accepts what Colfage says is cash from some migrants before leading them into U.S. territory. Look, you want this to stop, you start shooting these coyotes. You have to. Colfage's team has a videographer set up 24/7 on a rotational basis at the border, along with security, he said. He also noted that the existing wall, where migrants are pouring through at the spot of filming, was built by the U.S. government more than a decade ago. He said that since it was not constructed up to the mountain, it is now being abused and used by cartels. The private industry would never allow such a horrible waste of resources, he continued. What's the point of building $1 billion wall if you don't seal it off? The government built a strip of land to go up the mountain, but they didn't seal it off. Look, if you want to see the actual footage, which is linked here, of course, through Fox News, I watch it. You can watch it yourself. And all these links, of course, down in the description below. Smuggling remains a massive moneymaker, and even more so now with immigration numbers having reached historic highs throughout the month of May. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol data, more than 133,000 apprehensions took place in just a single frickin' month. Subsequently, Border Patrol processing facilities are dangerously overcrowded, with internal watchdog for U.S. Department of Homeland Security has warned. Research shows individuals typically pay between $4,000 and up to $15,000 to be illicitly maneuvered into U.S. territory, usually paid in cash and at the end of a routinely harsh and dangerous journey. The cartels are in the business to make money and control all aspects of the border smuggling activities. They are multi-billion-dollar enterprises and are taking complete advantage of the wide-open border to smuggle, says Derek Maltz, former agent in charge of the Drug Enforcement Administration Special Operation Division. They are not only charging huge money for the migrants across their controlled territory, but they are using the migrants as a diversionary technique to smuggle their lethal products into America. Moreover, Maltz said that cartels are believed to generate at least $500 million a year from the smuggling enterprise, and given that many of the migrants crossing illegally are women and children, many are vulnerable to atrocities and exploitation on their perilous expedition north. Nonetheless, late last month, Colfage's much anticipated project to begin construction commenced, and a half-mile barrier went up. Yet a splinter came earlier this week after officials from the International Boundary and Water Commission, which handles water issues between the U.S. and Mexico, ordered the privately financed section to keep its gates open indefinitely. The officials claimed that the orchestrators had not obtained necessary permits and that the barrier hindered access to a public monument and waterways. Well, go screw yourself. However, Colfage claims they were never in the wrong, and since Tuesday night, the gate has been put back into their control and they are moving forward, which is good. We are working to build more of the border wall. We are actively working with the U.S. government to finish that wall up the mountain as it was supposed to do, he said, referring to the area where the footage was taken. We're also working with local landowners to close up some small gaps. Despite the controversy brought about in the wake of the wall's beginning over Memorial Day weekend, Colfage underscored that they have since then raised an additional $3 million to continue development. Meanwhile, Mexican authorities, eager to demonstrate to the Trump administration that they are cracking down on the U.S.-bound migration from Central America on the heels of a trade dispute, underscored Tuesday that their operation had begun. At least 6,000 Mexican National Guard troops are expected to be soon deployed to monitor migrant routes, and an uptick in deportations is also said to be on the way. Look. Wow. Well then. Look. A wall, of course, is only as strong... there's the concrete barrier. A wall is only as strong as its weakest link. If you build a wall, you gotta ensure that the entire border is impassable with the wall from the Pacific Ocean all the way in California to the Gulf of Mexico. This type of deal where you just leave parts of the border open, that's not going to cut it. You gotta shut it down. There cannot be holes, of course, in the wall. In this case, all there was is this concrete barrier here that people can jump over and illegally enter the country. You know what? I'm somewhat surprised that no one now is patrolling that part of the border, even after we literally have footage of people entering the country illegally. But of course, I do understand that border security is far too spread out to really react to this too much. I mean, like they said, Border Patrol is literally crumbling because they just can't handle the massive number of people coming over. And of course, this only stops when citizens stop it. Look, apparently, this area is right outside El Paso, Texas. You know, I love Texas, but it's a border state. It only stops when citizens decide to stop it. Even though, of course, the Mexican government says that they're sending at least 6,000 Mexican National Guard members or soldiers to monitor migrant routes, that doesn't mean the number is going to go up. Hell, it could mean the numbers could go up of illegal immigrants. You never know. You don't trust the Mexican government. I will, of course, wait, though, until we have hard numbers to look at with the Mexican government's intervention in illegal immigration. But like I said, I don't trust the Mexican government, or hell, even ours anymore. Heck, Mexico was rated the 7th most corrupt country in the USnews.com ranking. Number 7 in the world. Mexico is extremely corrupt. I don't trust the Mexican government, like I said. 6,000 more National Guard troops. Hell, who knows? Maybe the Mexican National Guard troops will defect to the United States and try to enter illegally for themselves. You never know. Look, you can't trust the Mexican government after they've just allowed literally millions of people to come through the country to enter the U.S. illegally. It's up to the government, our government, which has failed repeatedly, but it's ultimately, like I said, up to the citizens to stop this. Look, there's nothing the government's going to do. The government doesn't care about you or me. It really doesn't. If they did, they'd stop the border crossings. They just would. And like I said regarding this, the results will speak for themselves. Look, a Trump tariff of 5% on Mexican goods, wow, that's really not a big deal. But trying to force the Mexican government to help protect U.S.-Mexican border sanctity and control, I don't know if that's really going to work. Look, Mexico obviously has shown that they don't give a shit, or they don't care. They just don't care about how many illegals are entering. Hell, they want their illegals to enter illegally into our country, because those are the people that they don't want in their country. So, I mean, there's really not much else to say about this. I mean, this is only going to continue as long as we tolerate it. So, but with that in mind though, thank you for watching. I'm Brazen Eagle, and I hope you have a great day.